Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for Iyanla Fix My Life, Season 7, Episode 7, called Home Invasion Horror Story. First off, I want to start by saying thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with somebody who you think will like it. So, I'm going live today, which I haven't done in a long time because I am so tired. I have been up all day doing homework, and then I took a pretty long break, and then I did homework again. So I'm up late, but I don't want to fall behind in doing my reviews because I'm on a more consistent schedule finally. So, I want to make sure that I keep it up as much as possible. So, this is going to be live today. So, hopefully, I don't mess up or dig in my nose on accident or whatever. So, I'm gonna pull up my notes here. We have um, a family here who went through a really traumatic experience. Um, the the characters, or not the characters, the people who are a part of this particular episode are Anne, who is kind of like the main person, the person whose home the home invasion occurred at. We have Shantara, who is Anne's younger sister. We have Annette, who is Anne and Shantara's mother. And then we also have Tony, who is Shantara's son. So here's what happened with the incident. Anne had a cousin named Carla, and Carla had a son named Shaquan. It was Shaquan's birthday, and Carla wanted to have a birthday party. So Anne agreed to have it at her house. So while they were prepping for the party, some gunmen showed up and entered the home and held them hostage because they were looking for Anne's boyfriend, who was a drug dealer. They were planning on robbing him. And later on, we find out that Anne, Shaquan, and Carla were in the house being held hostage. And Shantara and her two kids show up at the door to enter the home, and the gunmen make Anne open the door, and Anne screams to them that they need to run. Somebody's trying to rob us. Anne runs, Shantara runs, and Shantara's two kids are left on the porch. Carla and Shaquan are left inside the house. So, Carla and Shaquan died. Shantara was shot in the neck. Shantara's son was shot in the head and lost an eye. Shantara's daughter, Shantaria, was shot in the head and doesn't have a part of her skull. And was shot as well. And again, she was the person who was dating the drug dealer, and managed to get away with the least amount of damage. Is the overall one of the overall themes of this situation. So apparently 14 years later, after this incident happened, if I remember correctly, the incident happened in 2006. So just this year, the gunmen went to trial about this incident, and two of them got a total of 12 life sentences. So they are paying for their crimes, thank goodness. But it took a very long time for them to get justice, which always adds an additional layer of stress to a situation. So, anyways, apparently they never talked about this incident as a family. It's astounding to me, but also not surprising. I don't want to come off as being judgy or anything like that, but it's astounding to me, but not surprising that families have these traumatic incidences happen and nobody ever talks about it. And there are things that have happened in my family that people just don't talk about, but something where everybody in the situation got injured, two people ended up dying. It's just, it's just, how do you keep quiet about that stuff? I it's mind-boggling. But anyways, after the incident happened, Anne and Shantara didn't talk for 5 years after that. Shantara actually kind of shut Anne out of her life because she blamed Anne for the reason why she and her children were injured. And interestingly enough, Anne's kids were not there for different reasons, but Anne's kids just, were not present at the time. So Iyanla takes out this, what she called a medicine wheel, that had guilt, shame, regret, and anger written on it. So Iyanla starts talking to Anne by herself, and Iyanla says, ask Anne to consider what does it feel like for Shantara and her children to be injured, and to realize that Anne's kids were not there. And Anne was very receptive to that. And I think that she had thought about that a lot. Anne says that she took full responsibility, that she had dated drug dealers in the past, that she was a former stripper, that her dad was in prison for dealing drugs, and that she never talked to her mom about it. To the point where she wasn't really sure that her mom even knew her dad was a drug dealer. Again, a history of not talking about stuff. So Shantara and her kids, yeah, like I already said this. I'm sorry, I'm gonna skip this in my notes. Um, she also says that at the trial, one of the gunmen recalled Carla's last words, and her last words, "Why? That's what I get for coming over here." And Iyanla turns the wheel to Shane, and those I think those words actually really haunt, and I think she already feels a certain level of responsibility. Um, you know, it was her house. She was dealing with the guy who was a drug dealer, and her lots of members of her family got hurt as a result of it. And you can just see the type of pain and guilt and shame that's inside of her. Um, so next we have Iyanla and Annette. Again, Annette is Shantara and Anne's mother. So Annette's husband was a construction worker who suddenly got into drug dealing after Annette married him. He goes to prison right when she's about to become a nurse. And I'm curious if the drug money that he was making went towards her degree. It would be surprising if it didn't. Just saying. But he goes to prison right when she is able to have a better career, a better profession, so that she doesn't really have to want for anything when her while her husband is in jail. Apparently, he comes back from the first prison sentence, and then that's like, well, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna, I should leave him. And then it sounds like he went back to prison. He went to prison a second time, and that's when she was like, I'm out. And she didn't tell the kids. And this is where things get murky for me, because at some point they say multiple times that their mother ran away or isolated them, or abandoned them. So when she said that she was, basically saying I'm out of here after he went back to prison the second time, they weren't really clear about what that meant. But in one way or another, she ran. So we'll leave it at that. But anyways, she didn't tell the kids that she was leaving. And an interesting piece about their mother is that she thought that her influence of going to school and getting a good job would be enough to offset the influence of them having a drug dealer as a father. Um, and so much so that she counterbalanced his negative impact on the world as a drug dealer by being a rehabilitation nurse and trying to put positivity into the world and into her work. And I think that's just so interesting. I think that's really interesting about the guilt and shame that she felt around being married to a drug dealer, and that she chose a career to counterbalance that in, the overall universe or karma, or whatever you want to call it. Um, but huh, I'm just I'm really curious as to whether she actively told her kids, "Don't be like your father, do things the right way like I'm doing," or if she just thought that they would get the picture, um, because it doesn't work that way. But anyways, let's move on. So we see Iyanla with Shantara, and Shantara is like, if something were to happen to me, I'm worried about who will take care of Tony. He has medications, he has stuff he needs to do. And Iyanla's like, picked up the same energy that I picked up. It's like, you don't feel joyful about doing this work of taking care of your son. And Iyanla says that it feels like some type of penance. And we find out that Shantara actually feels guilty for running and leaving her kids on the porch where the gunmen eventually end up shooting them. So come to find out that Tony's dad, Tony is Shantara's son, was also a drug dealer. And Shantara has a lot of vengeful thoughts about wanting she wants the gunman to pay. She wants there to be a bloodbath. And she also blames Anne for the reason why she was hurt and the reason why her kids were, disabled. And so she blames Anne without considering that her own actions could have gotten the family into a similar situation. I mean, Shantara admits that Tony's father was a drug dealer. What if Tony had a birthday party and something else, something similar happened? So I think this was a way for Iyanla to get Shantara to actually think about her own actions and how, judging Anne doesn't work because this is the pattern of your family. Your family is your family has a history of doing this type of stuff. So it was Anne that it actually happened to, right? It happened at Anne's house, but it could have happened at your house when you were a kid because your dad was a drug dealer. It could have happened at your house as an adult because your boyfriend and Tony's father was a drug dealer. So I think Iyanla's really trying to get everybody to see their role in what has happened overall. So next we got Iyanla and the three women, and she keeps adding new aspects of this wheel. She just keeps adding stuff on top of it. So she starts talking about one of them is a um, street life card. The other one is a poor thinker card. And so Anne admits that the street life led to the entire massacre and her breakdown with her sister. Shantara talks about how she had poor thinking around explaining and telling her son what was going on in his life. The fact that he is, if I'm doing my math correctly, 18 or 19 years old and did not know the story behind what happened to him is crazy. It's crazy for two reasons. One, it's crazy because he has to deal with the after effects and impacts of what it means to be a disabled child in a time where, first off, kids always have been bullying since the beginning of history, right? Um, but you take that and add on top of it that he has one eye, and like I just really feel for him, have a lot of compassion for him, and the fact that he doesn't even know why he became that way or why he got shot is just astounding to me. But it's also amazing for another reason because I feel like an incident like that would be well documented and he probably could have looked it up. But, that's not on him. He should have been told by his family. But anyway, Annette tried to take Tony by the old house where it happened and he recognized it. But Shantara said that she had never taken her son by there because she didn't want to relive that moment. And Iyanla basically told her it's because you still are stuck there. So Shantara admits to blaming her sister and pushing her away, even though Anne wanted to be there to help her take care of the kids. Shantara came off as being jealous of the fact that Anne gets to live her life freely while she has to care for two disabled children. Um, and Shantara, her biggest question is about why she ran and why she didn't protect her children, and wonders if she chose running after her sister after her own kids. And I'm with Iyanla when she says the fact that you even think that your brain in a split second could process a thought like that is crazy. When you're in this literal life or death situation and your sister says they're trying to rob us, run, your fight or flight situation is at the front of your mind. And I do not blame her at all for, in that moment, running and not taking her kids with her, because nobody knows until you're in a moment like that what you're going to do. Would it have been ideal if she had had that instinct? Sure. But when you're really in that moment and it really is a split second, you really don't have as much forethought and control over those things as you think you do. So I would hope that she would forgive herself for that. But anyways, there was one. So look, Anne takes responsibility for the way everything happened because it happened at her house and it was a result of her dealing with the drug dealer, right? And then, but Annette, her mother, basically showed her how to be with a drug dealer, right? So there is responsibility that goes all the way around, right? But there was one instance where I was like, Anne, you are dead wrong. Anne did not break up with that boyfriend after their family got massacred. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Shintara, at least from what they shown, at least from what they showed the um on the show, Shintara didn't even seem mad about that. If your boyfriend is the reason why me and my family members are attacked and some of us are murdered and you stay with him, no, we're not talking. That's off the table. But Shintara seemed less mad about the fact that Anne stayed with that boyfriend and more about being jealous about being able to move on with her life in a way that Shintara couldn't. So that was weird. And they only have what 44 minutes to fit as much stuff as they can, and it's possible that Shintara felt some type of way about that. But Shintara also was like, why was there no revenge? If it was me, I would have went after these people. And Shintara and said, I'm not John Wick. Like, I'm not out here getting guns and killing people. And I feel like the boyfriend that she didn't break up with, the least he could have done was risk his life to go after those people. And I don't condone violence, but what I'm saying personally is that he is a huge part and has a huge responsibility in the reason why all this has happened to her family. I'm curious as to whether he sought revenge because that was the absolute least that he could have done. And this is not Kiera talking as to what I would do because I'm more so with Anne. Um, because I think that Anne took the high road and did not do eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But if I'm thinking about people who have a street hood mentality, it would make sense to me that her boyfriend would go after the people that massacred her family. So I understand where Shintara is coming from on that, but I don't necessarily agree per se. Anyways, um, so next we see Iyanla do a quick chat with Tony. Tony does not feel disabled. It was so weird the way Shintara talked about him and the way she felt so worried about what would happen to him. Um, I thought that he would not be as able or I mean he came across in his session with Iyanla, he says that he doesn't feel disabled. And when I look at him, I don't feel that way either. He comes across as being very intelligent. He comes across as knowing what he wants and being able to express himself in a great manner. He has like a really gentle and sweet spirit and wants to be a minister. And everything about him feels like he's capable. So the fact that she kind of it came across as if like if I die, to what is Tony going to do without me? And he came across to me as a very capable individual, but he doesn't know why the shooting happened and he never asked his mom or his aunt. So moving on, we got Iyanla and Anne. They sit down to have tea, and Iyanla says, "Anne, you still live in that house mentally." And Iyanla says to tell the truth, that you know that your house was a hotspot because you were dating a drug dealer. You knew that, and you invited your family there anyway. And also acknowledge the fact that you thought you were going to die that day. And she says, I wish I died on that day. And that makes her really emotional, um, and overwhelmed with guilt and all that kind of stuff. And I think she was able to get some stuff out, um, get some stuff clear with herself. And she reveals that she had never really expressed those feelings to her sister. And Iyanla says, your sister is probably mad at you because you holding in your feelings on your end. But when Chitara looks at you, it looks like you've moved on. And I think that that's valid. That like when we don't tell people how we feel, when we don't express ourselves, we leave our thoughts and feelings up to interpretation by the other parties involved. And people's imaginations get really crazy when they are hurt. And sometimes they're very off base, but it's important for you to have conversations so that there's no doubt about how you feel. But moving on, we see Iyanla and Shantara. And this part was really interesting to me. Shantara begins to talk about how her father's career choice impacted their family, and Iyanla presses on the fact that Annette and Shantara, I'm sorry, that Annette, who is Anna Shantara's mother, did not protect them from the fact that their dad was a drug dealer, and that dating a drug dealer was normalized, and that Annette abandoned her kids. And so she even goes on to say that Shantara knew that Anne's house was a drug hotspot and she took her kids there anyway, and that that's on Shantara. And I don't think I understand that she had guilt, but I think that she did not take personal responsibility for their part and just put everything on Anne. Um, But technically, Shantara had lived that life for a long time because her dad was a drug dealer and knew what the consequences could be and had been a part of that life. And she did take her kids over there anyway. So she does have some responsibility in it. And Shantara received that. And there was a moment where you could see like a light go off in her head when Iyanla had her draw a parallel between Annette, their mother, leaving them and her leaving her kids on the porch. And I thought that was a really big aha moment for her. And Iyanla just knows what she's doing. She just, I don't know how she knows what she's doing, but she does. But anyways, so we have Iyanla and the three ladies. We see Shantara ask for forgiveness from Anne and takes her portion of the responsibility for bringing her kids there. Excuse me. And she says, I put that on you, and that's not your charge. It was on me to take care of my kids, and I knowingly brought them to a place that was dangerous for them. And that got, her really emotional in that moment, and they really seemed to embrace each other. And it was a nice moment. And so next we see Annette take responsibility and acknowledge that she knew that their dad was a drug dealer. And for the first time, we hear her say she was actually, I don't know if it was this moment or when they talk with Tony later, that she was actually a part of it, which means that she had some involvement in the dealing of the drugs. Interesting. So moving on, um, she says that her normalizing that experience for her children eventually, with the chain reaction, led off to the massacre of their family, that she feels responsibility for Carla and Shaquan not being alive as a result. So lastly, we have Iyanla, the ladies, and Tony. And Tony needs to know the truth because the truth sets you free. So Tony didn't know that his grandpa or his dad sold drugs. Don't know how that never came up. Um, um, he also is very grateful that he's breaking this family cycle of drug dealing and that he has God in his life. And he just something about him is just so sweet and he has like a really gentle spirit. And tells the truth about what happened that day, even though Iyanla is the one who really gave him like the play by play of what actually happened. But Anne does tell the truth, and she asks for forgiveness, and she's like, I just can't help but think about how your life would be different if I made better decisions. And Iyanla wants him to have compassion and to talk about his feelings, and he expresses himself about how he struggles and how hard life is for him, and how people make fun of him at school, and how nobody considers his feelings. And this is the first time he's talking about that. And so I think they all got to see Tony in a new light. And I think they all got to understand the value of not struggling in silence. And I thought that this was really liberating for the family. And for the first time in a very long time, I feel like this session with Iyanla has really helped this family. I mean, they have been, Shantara talked about them going to trauma therapy, and Tony says a prayer at the end, and the family is doing well according to the post credit updates. And this is the first time that I came away from an episode not saying they ain't gonna change. Like, this is the first time that I feel very hopeful and very happy that they actually took this opportunity to learn and to grow and to get over the major humps so that they could work things out over time. So um, I don't remember the last time I felt that way about a particular episode. So I'm happy that this family has been able to get some type of new start from this experience. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to find me on social media. I guess I'll put the links down in the description bar. But thanks again for watching, and peace out, home slices.